The more you are pushed physically toward that physical limit, the more you understand how far and how much more you can go.
Today, on That One Time, I'm joined by Thomas Canestraro. Thomas is a world champion kickboxer turned actor, fitness model, screenwriter, and personal trainer. His journey as an elite athlete into more creative pursuits showcases an ability to reinvent yourself while also taking lessons from experiences as an elite athlete.
Every single thing that I've done was just going one little step up. So it never felt like it was unreachable. Every single step was reachable.
You mentioned if you're not moving forward, you're regressing. But how do you separate regression from appropriate rest?
You can only progress if you have the proper rest. The path that you have to take from A to B, you have no idea what it looks like, and you can't be judgmental about it. Make sure you get the right person who's going to bring you from A to B. Once you find that good person, just trust them and go for it. You will never be able to be something that you don't believe you could be.
Did you believe you could be a world champion?
I did.
In this episode, we explore using failure as an advantage, the stories around becoming a world-class athlete, the lessons you can take to applying the world-class athlete approach to your day-to-day life, and how to enjoy the process towards an elite status in whatever you're doing. I love this conversation because it's an up-close and personal exploration of how to be excellent at whatever you do. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. 92.4% of people listening to this have yet to subscribe. And by subscribing, you allow us to get better guests, increase the production, and improve on this project that I absolutely love to share with you. Now, enjoy the podcast. Thomas Canestraro, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here at the beautiful Music for a While studio.
Yeah, man. I'm so happy for you to have me. Thank you for having me, Adam.
Awesome. I did a little bit of research on you. I really love the arc of your life. It's been super interesting. I'm very excited to get to know you more and chat. I mean, off air and before this, we've been having some really fun conversations. You seem like a very sweet guy with a lot to share. So I'm very excited.
I'm very excited too.
Awesome. Well, my first question, I want to get started by saying, so you're a world champion kickboxer at age 16. You moved to New York on a whim to chase a dream after you finished university, which led to the opportunities to work with people like Sylvester, Stallone, Blake Lively, on Sex and the City, Expendables 3, and a lot more. But let's go back to the beginning. You've begun to notice some success in kickboxing at an early age. What was the blueprint that you developed in those early years that initially allowed you to become a championship kickboxer, and then secondarily able to pivot and succeed at personal training, modeling, acting, and everything you've touched since?
I mean, some of the blueprint, I think I didn't realize that early on. It was just, I had just a very present dad, never pushy, but it was always like, if you're going to do this, it's like competition is you're going to get punched in the face. So either you train, if you want to go to compete, you got to train. If you're not training, you're not going to compete. So it was like very, very about like the training, and he was just very involved and present. So it was just having somebody who was just like willing to be sitting on the bench, not talking, and like hours after hours, week after week, day after day. He was the only parent who was relentlessly coming and staying from the beginning to the end, not saying a word, and always like giving me some feedback. Every single time I would drive home, like he would give me some feedback in stuff that was happening. He tried to give me like some like little tips. So I think like just like the discipline of doing something over and over was one thing, which led me to almost like grow in a bubble. I was in that bubble sport, and I always tell that story. I think at the age of like 14 or 16, Eminem came up with his first album. I had no idea who he was and what he was. And so my dad come pick me up at school, plays this CD, put the CD in and say, hey, listen to that. Had no idea what it is and who it is. And he's like, what do you think? He's like, I was like, well, I like it. What is it? He's like, well, he's like, oh, I thought about that would be good, like for an entrance on the ring and stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. Where did you get that? So he got that from his cousin's son, who was my age. And I remember like playing that to my buddies. It's like, yeah, it's Eminem. Like, what's the big deal? Like everybody knows about it. So I was really all of that to say, like, I was in a bubble. So it's just about like the discipline of doing it over and over. And I think a lot of athletes will understand that, yeah, you're living, breathing, eating that world.
So how have you now applied that to your other successes in your life?
Well, you just got to submerge yourself with what you want to do. Like, you got to submerge yourself with what you want to do. You got to be around it. Like in my apartment, like no, in my bedroom, like I put like all the posters of the biggest movie. It's on my vision board. It's on my whiteboard. I'm buying books. I'm watching movies, and everything start to align with what I want to do now. All the people that I meet, all my conversation. So it's just like, at some point when you get your goals and you get your idea in mind, you got to be obsessed with it. If you're not obsessed, you're not going to perform. You're not going to be it. And you can be a pedestrian, but you're never going to do something at something by being a pedestrian. So either you're the driver or you're the passenger.
Yeah. So what would you say to people who want to, really push and succeed in something, but don't have a good support network? How can they potentially grow? Well,
a lot of what's going to happen is going to come from you. A lot of don't expect that everybody's going to come and hand you the solution and the answer to your struggle. Being willing to struggle, in the struggle come the answer. A lot of people here, I feel like, are waiting for the magic pill. A lot of people are used to, oh, that doesn't work. Here is the solution. Here is the answer. Until you find the answer, until you struggle in it, the answer will never have the same meaning. It's never going to be a print. So being willing to go through that struggle and surround yourself with people like you or people better than you. There is a lot of people who don't wish you well, will not help you to get to the next level. That doesn't mean be an opportunist, being honest and be real. But at the same time, if you surround yourself with people who don't even want to be better for themselves, like, unfortunately, you'll be product of your environment. So surround yourself with people who share some of your dream, or who actually have a dream similar to you. Like, you want to be an actor, like, hang out with somebody that the dream is to be a director, producer. Go with somebody who's a painter, who has love for artistic, who loves to do piano, who loves to play guitar. So just like make sure that like your support system and the people around you like are bettering you or helping you to get to that direction. And also like make sure you choose a good partner at home. Really important.
Yeah, why do you say that?
A lot of people will say that big man's, usually there is a big lady behind it. Or another big man or another big lady for a big lady. But it's more about, I feel like for myself, I'm at war every day. I'm in the juice of the doing. I'm in the grit every day. At home, I need some peace and I need somebody who understands that. Or also, sometimes when I want to take my foot off and I shouldn't, I need somebody who can be brutally honest and who knows my limit, who knows what's going to bring me to the next level. So you need to have somebody who understands. And sometimes, and pretty often, is somebody who's willing to sacrifice their own goal because they want to see you succeed more than they want to see themselves succeed. So sometimes your success is a little selfish, but having someone that can help you and that can support you is very important.
Yeah. Okay. So you've let's explore the martial arts to begin with. I feel like that's the foundation of everything, and I've seen a common thread where elite athletes or elite gamers, generally those two things turn into elite business people, or they become really good at other things in their life because there's some core fundamental principles that are developed.
Who told you that I was a big gamer?
Well, you're a big gamer.
I'm a big gamer.
It's the same skill. It's the same thing. Repetition.
I'm a huge gamer, and I'm trying to get out of it. Damn it.
Yeah. I learned that a while ago. I was never really that good at much. I was kind of middle of the pack my whole life, and I just didn't put the work in. And then I started playing World of Warcraft. I remember it. I vividly remember it. I would play World of Warcraft, and I started getting into the arenas, the 3v3 arenas. And then I started practicing a lot. And then I started watching YouTube videos a lot. And then I got into some teams, and then we started doing really well. And I think at the peak, would have been maybe 15, 16. And I think I hit top 30 in the world with my team. We were like farming people who got, did it professionally, full time. We were, wow. and then I had a light bulb moment. I thought, oh shit, if I can learn this and get to this, I guess I can do the same thing across the board. And that was a foundational shift.
Some transversal skills. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So with kickboxing as an example, it's a sport that needs a lot of discipline. Get kicked in the face. Yeah. What would you say? What were your strategies that allowed you to kind of be consistent when it was super tough and like really down, and how have you been able to apply those strategies and skills to building a business and balancing life and doing all the things that you do now?
I mean, I think one of the biggest takeaway for myself was through the competition, the adversity, and through the failing actually of some relationship and some stuff that I tried, it's more about like trusting myself. The biggest takeaway for me was that like the biggest lesson are in the biggest fail and in the biggest falls. And eventually the bigger was the fall, the harder it was to get back up. But the shift was like, oh my God, I survived this, I survived that, and I'm still asking for more, and I'm still here. And there is like a big, oh my God, there is nothing that's gonna get to me or leave me on the floor. I will always come back up. I will always find the answer. There is always a lesson. There is always something to be learned. And I think that's the bigger thing. Now, how do I apply that discipline? I think that's the answer. It's just that once you understand, it's just like the switch of like turn the brain off, and it's just a lot of repetition. Having good mentor, having good coach, having people who know how to get you from A to B, and just listening to them. I think the big key is that, and that's how I am, like whenever I don't have a skill and I want to learn a skill, I find a teacher. I always have this moment where I'm like, okay, I'm going to kind of evaluate your teaching skill and what you know. Once I know that your knowledge is what I want, I'm just giving you the keys. I don't care what I have to do. I will trust you. Like, I just like, hey, bring me to B. I'm on A. I want to go to B. I trust you no matter what I have to do, because I understand that sometimes the path that you have to take from A to B, you have no idea what it looks like, and you can't be judgmental about it. You have to trust. Your job is like, make sure you get the right person who's going to bring you from A to B. Once you find that good person, just trust them and go for it.
Yeah. Cool. So what was an example of, you mentioned, a big failure that led to a big moment of growth? Like, what's an example of that in your life, and how did you feel in that moment versus what ended up happening, with hindsight? Okay.
I take a small example. 12 years old, I got badly bullied in front of my entire school. I was having a cast on my arm, cast on my leg. And I'm pretty sure you ask some of my buddies at that age, they didn't even realize what happened and what did they do, but come back at school after like 2 weeks of not being there because my leg was broken. I'm on my crouches, and as I'm coming back in the recreational part, everybody's making fun of me and rejecting me. And it wasn't a big deal, but it was. And it's the interpretation of it. I'm on my own. I can't count on anybody. I'm going to have to get out of this on myself. I never realized the impact that had on me for what was coming. So it was like a huge like rejection. Huge. And that created so many moments of isolation, and I was comfortable in being isolated. So it was a defense mechanism that helped me, I think, highly to become like world champion like a couple of years later, and persevering in all of the martial art, because it's a teamwork. You have a whole team around you, but it's also a very lonely sport where the losses are pretty heavy. When it's like equal weapon. You get in the ring just with equal weapon, it's just there is, and let's see who's the best. Let the best win. And when you lose in front of everybody, you lose in front of yourself, and you cannot blame anybody else than you. And those moments are very lonely, and it's a hard step to get back on it, but those losses were so necessary to become better. And it's hard to become better when you're on the top. You know, when you really want to take somebody's position, you would always have something to look at, to outwork. I'm going to outwork you. You're working like 10 times a week. I'm going to work like 12 times. I'm going to work like 15, 20 times. When you're on top, it's hard to put the crossovers like, okay, like when is it enough? When is not enough? And and when you're on top, everybody's looking at you. Everybody wants your spot. So like things coming from every different angles. You don't know who's going to come and who's going to challenge you. So yeah.
So
did I answer the question?
Yeah. So when you were in the space of feeling alone, and then that turned into your successes and becoming world champion, what shifted in that moment? You spoke about that you had no one to rely on, but also how did you juggle that between not having anyone to rely on, but also having like, you know, listening to the team around you that was there?
Well, when there was nobody to listen outside of what I was doing, there was only one thing that became important. There was only one thing that was fulfilling. It was the only answer, the only place where I was worth something, where I was accomplishing, was the kickboxing place. So I held on to it like hell.
Yeah.
It's like I had nothing else. That was the only answer to, that was the only thing that made me feel worth it. That was the only thing that was fulfilling me and giving me answer and making me like being seen.
Yeah.
So I just like, whatever I had, everything was toward that.
Okay. How have you gone now unwinding the I'm alone and always going to be alone mindset, you know, and not rejecting people that are in your life that love you and care about you?
Yeah. I mean, the flip side of any defense mechanism is they work until they don't anymore. And eventually you end up like 30 years later, turning around and looking back and start to understanding what happened. You're like, oh my God. All of that for that?
Yeah.
For that stupid thing? Oh my God. And it almost like I was questioning like, whoa, was I really that fighter? Was I really that guy? Or was that just the answer and the reaction to what happened?
What was the answer?
I'm still figuring it out. I think like now there is much more that I want to explore that I didn't explore. There is a whole identity that I built as a as it was just like the answer of the moment. It was a survival answer at that moment that defined and shaped me. And now I'm just like more into exploration. Oh, there is maybe more than just what I had to build at that time, and I want to explore what else is there, what else can be. So I think I'm more into exploration and more okay to maybe be something different.
So you spoke about recreating yourself, and your identity was tied extremely closely to kickboxing, but now you are on the complete other end of the spectrum. So let's talk about, you've had this success, and then I'm guessing eventually you lost the title.
Yep.
So what happened then?
So when I became professional, I won the European belt, and when you fight in kickboxing, the European belt is 10 round. And sitting on the throne, I was happy, and I got a little super fight with somebody. It was a 5 round, and I didn't really prepared for it that much. And the guy,
you got cocky.
I don't think I was cocky. I think I was a little bored, and I think I wasn't. There is something that I learned from me is that if I don't have a goal, if I don't have like an objective, it's hard for me to stay focused and train.
Yep.
And I think a lot of athletes have that in their mind. I think that's a really common aspect, is like, if you don't have a clear goal of what you're training for when, it's hard to stay always on top, And so it wasn't really like something that I was training for. And so I took the fight, and I lost. I didn't lose like I got destroyed, but I fairly lost. And I remember the coach of the guy coming to my coach and asking, "Oh, is your guy who has like the belt?" I was like, and he's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Well, like, how about like, I'm going to organize a title in Belgium, my place, and we'll put the belt, we do a revenge, where the belt will be on the table." And so I remember my coach coming and telling me that. And I understand the point of view of the coach and the other guy. And that kind of like lighted, it was the matches that just like the fire. I was like, you mother trucker. You really think that this is going to be easy? I'm like, okay, game on. And so now I got ready for it. And I almost enjoy that fight, because I was like, in every single along my preparation, I was like, okay, you thought that you got me. It just like, it fueled something. It was like fire all along the prep, and it's almost like I needed that. But it was a fun one.
I'm guessing you won that fight.
I won that fight. I kept my belt.
By a lot?
I won it pretty well. Like, here's a lesson.
So what does that say around inspiration? So when there's inspiration, take inspiration from anything you can and harness into your goals when it comes up, because without it, you kind of will lose your way.
Well, you gotta have I think the takeaway for me is that you gotta to stay sharp. You gotta keep having objective. You gotta still being challenged. When you be on top, it's it's because you've been stimulated by something. And once you lose the eyesight of anything and you're just wandering, you're not staying sharp and you're not staying on top anymore. So it's and that's very easily. I don't remember who said talking about Conor McGregor there once you sleep in a nice silky sheets, it's fighting. The taste of fight, it doesn't taste the same. You don't have the same grit. And once you taste but I don't think for me it was the taste of the victory. It was just not understanding that without having a clear goal, it's hard to stay sharp and stay on top of the game. And it's also when you train for so long all the time, and when you prep big fight, it's 5 or 6 days. It's usually 6 days a week, 2 trainings a day. You go running at 5 a.m. and you go training at night, and every Sunday it's track. You don't really have that much social life. So it's a hardly sustainable life. And you don't see really a lot of friends. You don't see a lot of family. So it's very isolating, which didn't bother me for a long time. But eventually, when you start discovering all of this other side of life, you're like, oh my God, did I miss anything? Did I not? It's like, it's weird. And it almost feels like you're discovering life, and you're discovering like things that people already had and already know. And you're like, oh, like I'm the last person like figuring the things out. And so you're not at the same rhythm on the same things.
You mentioned that you felt some regret when you stopped, right?
Yeah.
So what's in that?
I moved to New York, and I still wanted to fight, still wanted to compete. I trained with a bunch of guys who know in UFC, who were in UFC. Like,
do you think you could have made the UFC?
I think I could have, yeah. I think I could have, but in New York, I didn't have the same team, and it would have cost me something. I think I was in a new journey, in a new discovery. I arrived in New York, that was already like 20 years that I was competing. So for me, like, yeah, I was only 26, but it was already 20 years that I've been training in that discipline pretty extensively, and the last 15, like pretty extensively. So I was already a little fed up, but at the same time, New York was also a discovery, because in order to be able to be that good, I had a big support system. I was still living at my parents, so they were also helping me with everything. And for me, coming to New York was also like, hey, can I survive? Can I make it on my own? It was also like, oh, am I a man? What am I? Like, what am I on my own? So there was also a lot of like self-discovery that needed to be done. That it was just hard. And like New York is a tough place where like, oh, you have to find a trainer, a manager, a promoter. You have to sell your tickets. The whole atmosphere about like being a fighter here was so different and new. It's been like 20 years I was in the same gym. It's like the last 15 years I was trained with the same person who was almost my second dad. And like all my team, everything was just like, I was such an oiled machine. I knew everywhere to go, what to do. Here, like I had to discover, it was just so hard.
A bit overwhelming.
It was overwhelming, and at the same time, like it felt also like such a shark world that when I had to almost interview everybody, because I remember the first time I stepped in a boxing gym, like everybody wanted to be my trainer.
Oh, really?
It's like, oh, who's this guy? What's going on? And like, oh yeah, I'm world champion this, I'm this. Everybody wanted to train me. And I was like, well, like, I don't know you. It's like, what do they want? It was just like, it was a weird place to be at that time. Yeah.
So what would you say to anyone listening that has had some success and maybe has reached a...
Oh, we were talking about the regrets.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. It's fine.
Yeah.
That has reached a point of plateau and needs to refire or move on to something else, because you've mentioned that you have spoken about, regretting not pursuing it further. But in that moment in time, you couldn't see a way through.
No. In that moment in time, I was almost fed up, and it's almost like I had enough. But eventually later on, I just realized that as you get older, that peak performance time that I was, it goes away.
Yeah.
You're not going to be there at all time. And
you don't performance time.
Yeah. Like
29, 28.
I mean, I think like the age varied, but it's just that like once you work your way up, and you're right there in the grind, and you're starting to get up, and you're starting to like be better in ranking, better fight. There is that progression. When you snooze, you lose. So as soon as you're gonna stop it, even if you stop 1 year or 2 years, like the time you're stopping and you're not in that peak training performance or around those people who produce that, who help you to get there, you're regressing. Yeah. If you're not training, if you're taking a break, you're regressing. And eventually regressing for too long, you can never get back to where you were. So it's almost like there is a time and place where things would happen that if you were going to be that champ, this is that time. And if you're in the top of your training, keep it going. And when you're not there anymore, when things get out of your hand, and that's unrelated to your training or your grit or your discipline, that means that just that things are done. And it's so hard for some fighter to let it go, but because you have the passion after it, and you know, like when you leave this moment for so long, like there's a part of you that loved it, that it felt feeling something in you. But I think the biggest regret is that like I haven't seen that, like, hey, later on I will wish that I would have taken this couple extra fights, that I would have trained this couple extra years, that I would have done a little more, because now when your prime is past, it's almost, what am I going to do? I'm never going to be fighting with the top 10, 15, top 10 in the world. What I'm going to do? I'm going to fight with like amateur, beginner? No. But it's also like, what's the purpose? What am I fighting for anymore? Once you fought for the best thing in the world, you almost like don't want to, what's the purpose to fight for lower than that? Like you tested yourself, and there is a point where you're not going to be able to do that anymore. So once you're in there, just like milk yourself as much as you can. If you're fed up, you're fed up, but think about that one day. There's a point where it's not your mind. It was my mind who didn't want it, but physically I could have done it. When it's physically that I can't do it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that my mind can do it. It's like physically I'm never going to be, it's just like, there's just so much, there's that peak performance, that time, that cardio, that speed, that even just that mobility, that flexibility that I will never get anymore. And that I can't reach that anymore. And when it's just your head, it's like, this is crap. Just don't, fuck the noise. Just keep going a little more.
Yeah. Fuck the noise and just keep going a little more is a great analogy for life.
Yeah.
It's a great analogy. You mentioned if you're not moving forward, you're regressing. But how do you separate regression from appropriate rest?
Well, appropriate rest. There is in a proper preparation, physical preparation, like rest is part of it.
Yeah.
You can only progress if you have the proper rest, actually. Progress, if you overwork, there is a level of like too much will bring you down.
How do you know when you've reached that?
You surround yourself with people who actually, I mean, like, you know, it's like, there's a lot of like, it's also like physiologically, there is a lot of like sign of, and there's a lot of like study about like, what's the proper amount of training, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. And also like, you have to have like people around you, like sometime the physical overwork, even though like it's physically you're regressing, it's because like we're working on mental attributes. So you need to make sure that that's the tough part, is like you have to have people around you that knows that know what they're doing. It's like, oh, well, like we're working on like the mental resilience, which is why like we're going to like push you through failure, which is like if we're working on a physical attribute, eventually there is a point where like it doesn't make sense and you need rest now.
So what do you, from your experience, have to say around when the mind wants to give up, but when the actual body can't move anymore? It's like, how do you push past that mind chatter? And is there a real gap? Is there a significant next gear?
I mean, you always find out what's your next gear when you are pushed into it, when you have no other choice than being pushed into it. Once you're in the ring, in a fight where you have nothing left, but you have no other choice, you can't run away, well, like you'll find out how to make it work. You know, you have to, and eventually like that will like also like most of the time, like the mind give up before the body. Most of the time it's like the body give up, shut it down. But the more you are pushed physically toward that like physical limit, the more you understand how far and how much more you can go. Eventually when your body give up, There's nothing you can do. That's not your will. You don't choose that. But the mind is it's always a choice. Okay, I'm letting this go. You know, if somebody choke you out, eventually when you're out of air, like eventually like your eyes go to sleep. But if you decide to tap, this is a mental choice. So there is a level of okay, when am I tapping? When enough? When do I figure out that this is enough?
Yeah.
Eventually you tap. But if you don't tap, you ended up going far and beyond and see how much more time you would have like hold that choke, for example. That doesn't mean I suggest everybody to do that. You know, that doesn't mean like, okay, like I'm going to put my head under the water and drown myself to figure out how much I can. No. But understand the psychology behind it is that, yeah, like you probably, if you put your head under water and you try to hold your breath, you probably come back up, I don't know, 30 seconds, 45, a minute, 2 minutes. But physically, if you had no other choice and you were whole, how long could you have like held your breath under water? Maybe a little more. But it's really hard to push yourself and to consciously going through that because you have like the survival instinct that pull you out.
So how do you cultivate those extreme environments while also not like killing yourself? Like to really tap into just like becoming...
Well, you know, like for example, like I'm going to take it in martial art. There is that thing where like you get in the ring and every minute you get a fresh fighter coming in and that will suck the life out of you. You know, eventually there is a moment where like, well, like it's draining and it's just survival and you just learn how to endure it, you know, but there's just like some exercise that just like push you through it and like, and it's also, it have to do like, it's a little bit about like who you are and what you want to do. You know, it's about like finding out what you made. And it's like, you have to be a little crazy. You have to have that. You have to have like, find pleasure in that. You have to have that a little in you and you have to be willing to, I'm not saying hurting yourself, but to find out what you're made of. And there is a little bit of like pride in yourself. Say, okay, like I'm going to test myself out. You know, like nothing is going to come easily. And, you know, and if you just want the easy, okay, like good luck. But I don't think you're getting that. There is a moment where you dissociate the pleasure with the necessity. And once you understand that, like, hey, it's not about what I want, it's about what I need to, what I have to, what must be done, you just go through it. And you don't let yourself have the choice. But it's not easy, but some people have it a little more. And I do believe that, like, yeah, based on what you lived, what you expect, but at the same time, like, it's just like everybody can go and find out for themselves, like, you know, it's about how bad do you want it. And that's, you're the only one who can give it to you. I can't give it to you how bad you want something. Like, it'd have to be about you. You have to want it. You don't want it, like, you'll stop before me. That's okay. But like, I can't give it to you more than you can give it to me. It's like, you know, and we all have these triggers and it's about finding your answer. There's things that works for people, things that don't work. Like, find what works for you. I just like, I don't know, some people get in the gym, they watch themselves. I used to watch myself in the mirror and say like, you're a bitch. And it was like, I talking to myself, it was a fight with me. Like, okay, you think you can stop? Like, sometimes I've done that. You know, you find what works for you. I can't tell you what it is, but there's something that works.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your self-talk like during your training periods and even now going into the next stage of your life? Is it positive? Is it negative? Are you...
It varied. I think sometimes I need some positive, but I'm not real. I don't think the easy way is what works with me. I think I'm more about like, okay, what do I need? So just like don't bitch about it. Just do it. You just got to do what you got to be done. What need to be done, do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. It's not about what you want. Just do it. You got to be a little. You got to be a. I always say, like, if you're a little simple, it's sometimes a little easier because it's all about discipline.
Yeah.
You know, and like people who are really like somebody who has
don't
like,
overthink it.
Somebody who has a nice life and a nice reason to just go home, drink a nice glass of wine, sit on the couch, what's a cool thing, go out, like, and enjoy the life like that. Like, well, like your comfort will kill you. You gotta be uncomfortable. You gotta learn how to be comfortable in a discomfort. And And it is very uncomfortable, but it's so necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to move over to the recreation of yourself with your identity tied to kickboxing. Because from my personal experience, I've had a few pivots in my life where my identity is tied to one thing and then it goes away.
Yep.
And there's this crisis.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear. So you've hit the top of kickboxing, and how did you figure out who you were after that?
It's very tricky for me because in France, I was a big champ like really early on, and it's almost by that time like there was not so much like social media, and even a lot of my fights I still know like in VHS and the camera. Like it's just like I need to upload all of them every time. Oh, can I see your fight? I'm like, my dad has like a massive box. It's like, yeah, there's like so many, but I wasn't really recognized as a big champ. People in my town or who knew me, yeah, they knew it, but it's also like I didn't have so much recognition. But what I've accomplished spoke to a lot and to a lot of people when I arrived to New York. Like people couldn't understand what it meant. And I realized I was like, well, like the grit, the discipline, and what it means to be world champion speak to a lot of people. And it's almost like I realized more what it was to be world champion by seeing the eyes of people opening and say, when I was telling them that I was world champion. Because to me, it was always like, well, it's a small championship that if you win, you go to the next one. But if you win, you go to the next one, and you go to the next one, and you go to regional, and you go to national, and you go to European, and you go. It's just like, so people who have never done anything, they're from the bottom of the bottom, and they're watching the highest steps, and they're like, oh my God, it's something they could never done, they could never accomplish. But it was never that way for me. It was always every single thing that I've done was just going one little step up, 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 up. So it never felt like it was unreachable. Every single step was reachable.
So you never said to yourself, I'm going to be world champion one day. You're like, I just like kickboxing.
Yeah. Yeah. I was more like, nobody will fuck around with me. But no, it was never like, oh, I want to be world champion. I never really had that. For a lot of people, it wasn't that for me. That's not what did it. But it almost happened like it was a sport, and it was something where I was going to be able to prove that I was the best. And so, as I said, it was just like always reachable. Every single goal were reachable. And I arrived here, and for a lot of people, it meant a lot, and I understood. And I understood like that. I was like, oh my God, like everything that I've done will always be with me now. And like people will always value that. But at some point, there was a point where I was like, hey, all of that are kind of like the past. Who am I today? Because it's great. Yeah, I've done all of these things. Who am I today? What have I done today? You know? It's almost like, hey, like, yeah, I was this, but this was like 20 years ago. This fight was 10 years ago. And it's almost like, okay, like, what am I today? It's like, well, like, I do have some of that legacy with me, but, you know, it's still the question of like, okay, like, and at the same time, there's also the reality of like, I couldn't be world champion again today. That's the harsh reality. I wouldn't be able to be world champion. I have it in me. I have it in my mind, like I would want to, but the reality is like, and I wish I could. And I know that like mentally I could do what it takes, but it would be some limitation. It's too far past.
Sure.
So there is the harsh reality of where you are today, where you stand, and the honesty with it. You know, Mike Tyson will always be Mike Tyson, but we just saw him fighting. Mike Tyson isn't Mike Tyson at 18 coming out of jail and destroying anybody in front of him. We want that. And I'm sure like, and you see him, he still had the same mindset. He knows he could in his mind. Eventually like, can't anymore.
Okay. So
did I answer the question?
No, you did. There's a lot in that. So I'm just wondering on where to take the next thread. But I liked the analogy of one step at a time. You just looking at what was in front of you with no crazy expectations of what was around you. So how can somebody else listening to this, you know, break down goals into manageable steps, but like not lose sight of the bigger picture, but not get too far ahead?
So I'll recommend anybody to do that. Make a vision board. Go home, go to Mitchell's, go to wherever you want, like put a board, cut the pictures, like make a vision board. There is like so many different, like Google, YouTube, whatever you want, find a way, make your own vision board, make something like and dream big. Who cares? Like, don't make it small, make it big. And even if people watch this is your vision board. Just make it big. Make it as big as you want. Because unfortunately, the truth is that you will never be able to be something that you don't believe you could be.
Did you believe you could be a world champion?
I did.
When did you believe it?
I believed that I could become like national champion. When I was national, I believed I could become European. When I was European, I believed I could be. So it was one step at the time. But eventually, when I was like, yeah, I believe that I can do it. It just eventually after that, and now I'm like, I believe I can do anything I put my mind into it. I'm like, I believe that there is nothing that you can tell me that I cannot do. Like, unless I have physical restriction, but like, if it's just mental and work, and it's like, I got everything I need to do it. Like, what is stopping me? There's nothing aside myself. So you got to understand that whatever you're putting your mind into it, you got to believe that you can do it. That doesn't mean that tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're going to be Steven Spielberg and make like crazy movie.
Well, Spielberg was doing it from a child. I just listened to a podcast on his history, and he would go to the cinemas every weekend from like age 6 and just watch hours of movies.
Yeah.
And just be there. And it, you know, like this is the same thing. He loved it. He didn't care.
But exactly. But my point is that like it didn't happen overnight.
Never.
It was like a dream. And unfortunately, you have to understand that you cannot be in love with the ultimate accomplishment and goal, because you're going to fall in the middle of it. You got to be in love with the journey of it. And I'm realizing that like I've been many times on set, like through stunt, through acting, through movie, through TV shows, and the acting school and what I'm learning is so much fun.
Yeah.
It's so fulfilling, and don't get me wrong, it sucked. There's some exercises and a bunch of classes and situations that suck, that I hated. But the journey is so fulfilling. I love it. And so like, you're not an actor based on like, oh, I've done this movie, because there is a bunch of people who end up in movies. It's just through connection and they're not even worth it. And they don't even know how to act. But you're an actor because like you live the artistic life, because you do everything that it takes, because you're passionate, because you read the book, you know theater history, you know film history, because you're interested about how camera worked, about the color, about the lighting, about like the different style, the different type of movie, like about the details, about the bigger picture, about the life of it. You like to write, you like to play with yourself, you like to record yourself, to see yourself, to do again, to try scenes, to rewatch interview, to watch like self-tape for people. Like you submerge like Steven Spielberg. Like he just like everything that was in his life that was around that, and help him to become who he became. It was all around, and this whole thing, that's what made him a director. It's all of this. It's not just doing one movie. Yeah, one movie, yeah, you're a director one time. You know, in a fight, we say like you're only as good as your last fight. But a fighter, for me, is not somebody who just fight one time. It's someone who spent his life training for it and living the lifestyle of it. That's a fighter. So I think you got to find the love in the journey, because you're gonna eat everything, and it's just not like. Unfortunately, if you don't like the journey, every single little extra step on the side that you're going to think it's unrelated, and it's going to become a task. Oh, I'm going to read that book. Oh, I have to read this book. No, like if martial arts is your thing, like, whoa, taking a jiu-jitsu class or like watching this video about this way of like giving a low kick in Thailand, or like, oh, how do they give a low kick like in Savat? Like all of the different things should interest you because you're curious. You just like want the knowledge. And this is another thing that I say, when you get people, most of the very talented people on top of their art or their craft, they are somehow passionated because they've been like fan of the thing, and they've been like sucking all the essence of whatever they're fan of. Eventually they can be fed up, but they're not fed up with people who are curious and who are sponges. They are fed up with people that like ask you your opinion and your advice on something that hold on to your core so much that you're such a fan of it, that if you're just a casual about it, it's like, it's like you're not going to take what I'm saying at the high value, at the right value. But when I find somebody, and this is why I love to teach beginner, because some of the beginner, you can tell who really like, it's a necessity. They want to learn. They're curious. It's like, oh my God, like they just have so many questions. They need the answer. Those people I enjoy teaching. It's filling my cup to teaching to these people. Same way I taught in a women detention center. It's another story for another day, but it was so filling my cup to see that everybody was coming with a different purpose, with something different. But a couple of them really wanted to learn, and they were like so interested in it. And that's my point, is like, find a mentor. And if you are interested with the discipline, nothing become a task. Everything is just like, oh my God, like, yeah, I'm curious about this. Oh, who do you say? Yeah. Oh, that book, who wrote it? Oh my God, what's the story about? Oh yeah. And you're going to read that book. He's going to talk about somebody else. It's like, oh my God, who's this other guy? It's just going to be natural.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just loving the process, isn't it? And then everything kind of falls into place where it needs to.
Don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with the podcast, it's, I'm like hearing what you're saying and thinking to myself, oh yeah, all I do is listen to podcasts. Like, I'm so curious and interested, and, you know, just learning how to talk to people and different techniques of interviewing and
in people, in stories,
how to storytell, all of it. It's, it's fun.
It's fun.
It's so fun.
Yeah. And there is like, it's just like when the task become fun, when what you have to do to become better, it's something that you love to do, that you enjoy. It's like, when are you really working?
Yeah.
You're always learning something that you love and that you're interested in. It's never a task. It's almost hard to put the book down.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to like not read about this, to not watch this movie. Like, I started to watch movies. I rewatched the movies with different eyes for different things.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Some movie, even the boring movie, it's not about what's good, what's bad. It's like, why is this working? Why is this not working? There's a lesson into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just quickly though, I love doing this podcast. If it's positively impacted you in some way and you would like to support us, please subscribe. By subscribing, it allows us to build a much bigger base of listeners, which results in better guests, better production, and a better show overall. Alternatively, please take a look at the affiliate links of the products that I use and love in the comments below, and consider purchasing using those links. They'll give you a discount, and they'll also provide the podcast a small kickback. These are two very easy ways for you to support us as we continue to grow the podcast that we absolutely love doing. Thank you for your support, and now back to the episode. With the next step of your life, you know, you've gone from the kickboxing success, and you've then had a lot of, you know, it seems like you had a lot of success in the acting and the modeling world, and it's still growing. So How did you overcome your self-doubt, or was there none? Because you just knew you could do it and you just built that muscle over repetition, day after day.
No, there is self-doubt.
Okay.
There is a self-doubt. Like there is, and especially, you know, when you're on the top of the world on one discipline and you decide to go into different things and you start from the bottom, and problem with acting is that it's the best are such at ease and make it look so simple that you think it's simple and that you can do it. And until you start to learn about the craft, you think that this is easy and I should. And eventually, like, my process was like, oh yeah, I got like couple success. I got like booked for a couple things. And eventually the bigger parts start to come. I started to have like bigger audition, and I will not book the bigger part, and I will not book the bigger part. And eventually at the beginning I was like, oh, maybe this is my accent. And for a lot of time I was like, yeah, the accent is probably a problem. I took like some coaching, accent reduction classes and a bunch of things. But eventually I was like, no, there is something else missing. And I started I was like, okay, like I'll go back to acting school. I'll go back to learn. And as you start to go through the learning, and you're like, oh my God, you start to realize what you didn't know. What you didn't know that you didn't know about.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, how ignorant was I? So eventually, you know that you're ignorant, and you're like, okay, now I know that I'm ignorant, and at least there is stuff that I can work on. But you're starting from scratch, and you have to be willing to be diligent to go through the whole thing again and again. And it's a field of constant rejection.
Yeah.
So you gotta, self-doubt, and especially when you want to build a family and like you want to start to live of it, it's really hard because you don't know when the next job is coming.
Yeah.
Just like ask anybody who's an aspiring actor, oh, you have an agent? Oh, no, I'm trying to get an agent. How do you get an agent? Oh, I need to show them work that I've done. But how do you get work? Boy, I need an agent. So like that's how we start. So it's already there. You're like, oh my God. So it's so challenging and it's so easy. And like you get in your acting class and the teacher is like, yeah, well, like 8 of the 10 people here would not be doing this in 3 or 4 years. You're like, damn. You know, and that's the true reality. Half of the people have figured it out, and like it's a tough business that the only time you lose is when you stop.
Oh yeah.
And you never know if you're going to win.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a few things you can put in place to give yourself the best chance of winning, right? Like you can make sure your content is on point. You can make sure your brand is on point. You can put in the reps. You can study it, you know, and you can check in every day. You can just try every day.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, and if you do that for long enough, like I've heard, you know, with the podcast as an example, one of my friends has a top 10 business entrepreneur podcast, and he's, you know, making a full-time thing about it. I texted him and I said, oh man, this shit's hard. And he's like, yeah, it's hard. It took me 5 years before anything happened.
It is.
Fuck me.
It is. But this is why the self-doubt will be, but if this is clear what you want to do and you're not giving up, eventually it'll pay off. Yeah. It will pay off. And eventually.
And also in ways you don't know.
In the ways that you don't know, you have to be willing to, I mean, like a lot of what we do, you don't get there alone. You have to start understand that your network, your friends, family, clients, acquaintances, everybody can be helpful. Can just be part of it. So you have to start to look like a little around of your comfort zone, and you just got to keep going. And you just like, if you're creative, you just got to keep creating.
Yeah.
You know? And a lot of time is like, yeah, like, I mean, like it's the big story of like Sly. Like, well, like he wrote his own movie. It's like, yeah, not everybody is going to come and say, hey, here's the script, here's the perfect role for you. You know? He had to struggle. He had to make his own thing. Was it easy? No. You heard the story about him like selling his dog, and well, if I'm recalling this right, he sold his dog that allowed him to have enough money to set up the movie and went back to buy back his dog after. So it's just that like it requires sacrifice. There's a lot of things that required that you don't know that, and he's just like, hey, like you don't know what this is gonna. That's a bigger message, but I feel like the happiness in life is to understand that you will have the roller coaster of the up and down, and that all along your life, whenever you overcome something, something else will come. There's always something that comes. And if you understand that this is just what life is about and can just be still happy and content through the ups and downs and the roller coaster, like at least you have a chance to have that happiness and that peace, because like it's never gonna be just easy and given. Always something else that's gonna come. There's always like a new obstacle. There's always like a different level you want to get. Just enjoy the process.
Yeah, definitely. Confidence versus humility. So
I think the answer is through honesty.
So neither. Honesty.
No, it's through the honesty. You know, you gotta be honest with yourself. Either you have it or you don't.
And but what if you don't have it, but you think you can get it?
Go work for it. Once you get it, when you'll get it, you'll know you get it. But you got to be honest with yourself about it. You know, sometimes like it's almost like, oh, you had this massive role that come in your hand. Can you handle it? Be honest. Can you really handle it? There's sometimes having self-doubt and yes or no, like, you know, sometimes you'll think you can and maybe you can't. And sometimes you'll think you can't and you can. But, you know, at some point you need just the honesty. And a lot of people, they don't care if you're ready or not, but what they want is they want you to be honest. Because if I come with you with a big project and say, hey, listen, I have this big thing that I want to get done. Can you help me with it? If you tell me, yes, I can, and you can't, I'm going to have an issue. But if you tell me, hey, I don't think I can, I think that this is what I actually can do it. This, I'm not really sure. I'll say, okay, if I take you, I know what to expect. We're in tune with the reality.
Yeah.
So I think the confidence is like, hey, knowing what you actually can is the honesty of like, hey, here is what I can really nail down.
Yeah.
Here is where I'm not really that comfortable. Here's what I can get down. Here's what I can do to get there.
Yeah.
And the humility is that like, yeah, if you're a black belt, you know what you are. You don't need to like brag it about in front of everybody. You know, like you let your work speak for yourself.
That's the difference between, I think, the European and the Australian culture and the American culture. I feel like, you know, people talk a lot here. I've noticed I have to talk more because you probably feel the same. You're just like, oh yeah, I did this and I did this. But then Americans are like, yeah, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and it's going to be the craziest thing ever. And a lot of them are talk.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm really about like, if you come on the mat, just don't put any belt. Just like, you know what? We'll see what belt you are. We'll see.
Yeah.
You know? Whatever you done, this is great and whatever. That doesn't take away anything you done. But it's just like, hey, like, if you're a black belt, you don't need to say it. Like, we'll see it. We'll know it. We'll feel it.
Yeah.
You know, it comes with a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I want to jump into health for a second before we wrap up. But so if, you know, you're grinding on your career, your business, you want to be at your peak. What are the most important fitness and health habits that, from your experience as an elite athlete to a personal trainer, that people should adopt to maximize their performance?
I mean, fitness journey is it's time, money, energy. So it is an investment, but you have to understand, what are you doing? You have to be clear with yourself, like why are you doing this? Because if you don't know why, you're not gonna take it seriously. So like, you got to figure out, why are you doing it? Eventually, you have to have realistic goals, you know, because like, one more time, you're only gonna achieve what you believe you can achieve. And if you cannot do it or get it, find a person who will get it for you, who will make you do it. Like, if you want to do Pilates and you don't know how to do it, don't buy the table. Just like, go to a Pilates place, make sure you interview, get the best teacher of it. Hate Pilates. But it's just like, if you don't have it, like somebody have it and somebody will like teach it to you. It's like, what you're good at it, just stick to what you're good at it and what you want to do. And the rest of it, like surround yourself with people who can help you to get there. You don't waste your time with doing or trying to do something that you're not good at. You spend way too much time. Just stick to what you're good at or learn what you want to be doing. Do that and let other people help you with what you don't have.
What are the key pillars of maintaining top end health and fitness?
Well, I mean, you got to have a little bit of knowledge about like nutrition about like exercising. And I think like the overall is like, eventually you understand that you want longevity. Eventually the fitness is like, it's spiritual, it's emotional, it's physiological. And so like it will help you. It will fulfill you in many different ways. In some ways that you probably didn't think about it first, but it's rich. It's fulfilling when it's done properly for the right reason, when you understand why you're doing it. If you've never done any like personal training,
get a trainer. But you know what? Get another trainer and get a third trainer, get a fourth trainer, get 5 trainers. Get a new trainer every month or every 2 months. And eventually you have a clear understanding and you'll be, what did I like with this one? What did I not like with this one? Because it's like, you're never going to know what it is to be like, you got to understand. And you're going to start with one and say, my trainer is the best. Like, go through multiples and eventually stick with who is the best for you. Like, in order to know what a good trainer is, you got to go through severals because you're never going to know. Yeah. I'm doing Tony Robbins, as I said, on Thursday, and
lucky guy.
I can't wait. It's been like 8 years in the making. I watched his Netflix documentary years ago. I would have been like 23, and it blew my mind. I was like, I'm going to put this on. And then I'm fucking bawling my eyes out and like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yep.
And then I said to myself, I'll do that one day. And then 8 years later, on the other side of the world, I'm going to do it. But I did an online course with him that was a bundle with this package. So I did the other one, which was Unleash the Power Within. And something really stood out to me around that. And it was, he spoke about if you want to do anything well, you set the goal and then you get a coach and you immerse. Exactly what you were saying. Set a goal, get a coach, immerse yourself in it. Yeah. And you can do in a month what would take you 2 years, which is, and it's etched into my brain now. So anything that I want to do now, it's full immersion.
Yeah. I mean, like that's you got to live it, you got to breathe it, you got to eat it. It's just like, if I'm going to do a little name drop, like I used to watch, what's his name? TD Fletcher?
I don't know.
TC Fletcher? This bodybuilding TC Fletcher.
CT Fletcher.
CT Fletcher. Oh my God.
Huh?
So I used to watch CT Fletcher, which is this inspirational, really raw bodybuilding guy, California. And you look this video about I think it's the 10 fundamental of bodybuilding. And you can apply that to anything else. And it's just like, this is very specific to the bodybuilding, but at the same time, there is a lot of little take-in that transversal to any of what you want. But it's just like everything is there about hey, you got to be obsessed about it. Obsession is requiring, it's needed. You got to eat, it's just, this is what it is. You will be misunderstood by a lot of people because if you talk to people, and this is what I said, surround yourself with good people who understand. If you're obsessed with something because it's filling your gap, because it's filling the gap, it's giving you the answer that you need. and you have like this downer around you, it's like, oh, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Well, you shouldn't do that. Like, I was like, yeah, well, like those people probably haven't find the answer and haven't find the thing that they need to fill up, or they maybe just don't have your ambition.
Yeah.
But you can't let like pedestrian cutting the grass under your feet.
Yeah.
You got to dream big.
And put in the work.
And I mean, like, yeah, nobody's going to do nobody else than you're going to put the work. Like, nobody else will do.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying, is like that grit, that who you are and what you're made of, like, you're the only one who's going to find out, you know? And the honesty, what I was saying is like, yeah, if you are honest with yourself, when you look at yourself in the mirror with the good, the bad, the shameful, the thing that you do that you feel guilty, that's okay. You got to be present in it. You're human like everybody, but if you don't like it, good. Stick with it. Work on it. You don't have to endure it and look on the other direction. It's okay. It's okay to be ashamed of it. It's just like, okay, like, take it as a lesson. What do you have to do so you don't have to deal with this? You don't have to do this anymore. You know, it's like, and that you can do anything. You're not stuck in any place that you don't want to be.
You mentioned spirituality before. You know, you've been under high pressure. You've been in the spotlight. What rituals or practices have helped you kind of channel into a peak performance, and you know, how can they be adapted to the next page of your life?
I realized that I was doing something before every single of my fight. I didn't know that it was that, but I used to always have my hoodie, lay down on the floor, put it on, and just almost being like in a sleep, almost sleeping, and thinking about what was going to happen. And what I was doing was almost meditating and visualization of what I wanted to happen. I would see what I wanted to happen before it happened. And eventually, I didn't know what I was doing. That's like, it's something that's so common in high level training and in sports. But as I said, you got to believe. It's like, if you want to drive that Ferrari, just like close your eyes, put your hand on the wheel, just like hear the motor, just like feel it. Like, just you gotta feel that. If you can feel it, if you can, McGregor said it, if you can see it and being courageous enough to say it loudly, it will happen to you. But you got to believe that you can do it. You got to truly believe. You got to see it. You got to be tender. You got to, you know, the law of attraction is that, like, you got to believe it. You got to know that, like, what you want is like, law of attraction is about, it's almost like as is already happened. What happened if I was this like superstar, like movie star? Who would I be hanging around? Would that be normal that I'm invited to this? But it cannot just be something, oh my God, I will never do this. Oh my, no, because you're putting your mind already in a place where this is not even doable for yourself. So you will never even be able to do it because you don't even believe that this will ever happen. It ought to be normal. That's your lifestyle. That's the life you want. Well, that's going to be normal. If this is really what you want, well, like, that's what it's going to look like. Get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have a meditation practice now?
No. I used to meditate when things were not that good. But I do have a little meditation before I go to bed, actually.
Yeah. Run me through that.
I've been either the Sage or this new
Palo Santo.
There we go. My friend Kate, she's watching. She knows. She's the one who told me to get that. So I do the Palo Santo with the Sage, and I burn that out, and it's just like, it's a cleansing of the space. And either I just close my eyes and lay down on my bed, and I have this like salt lamp with these hot balls, like, and I grab them in my hand, and it's just like, I told myself that thing's gonna be okay. I don't know why. I have this belief. I just have it that things will work out and that I'm going to be okay. I don't care what it looks like. I don't know which path I'm going to take. I just know that I will be okay. I believe it. I truly believe that.
Did you always believe that?
Yeah. My dad used to always tell me that I'm just so lucky that good thing only happened to me. I don't know if he put that in my head, but I believe it. That I don't know if only luck, but I'm like, good thing will happen to me. Great thing will happen to me. Things will be okay, and I will make it work. And so like I comfort myself, I soothe myself, even when things are okay. And I just started to read a little more. I just started to read an interesting book, and it's just I find happiness in small thing. And I started a new sport. I started pétanque, which is really French. It's like the bocce ball, the French bocce ball, and I'm just putting all my. I put a lot of time in training in that and a lot of discipline into that. It's just, but it helped me to build up a new community. It's almost like my new boxing like community. Now it's like this pétanque player. It gave me a little peace of mind and a way to
unwind.
Really. But you need that. You know, you need that little thing that the balance.
Definitely.
You need to be unbalanced. That can balance.
Unbalanced but in balance. I like it.
You got to be an unbalanced,
unbalanced
person. Unbalanced person is the key. Good luck.
So what's the biggest thing over the last 2 years you've changed your mind on?
Well, 2 years ago, like a little more than 2 years ago, like a big thing happened for me. A big turn happened, like relationship-wise happened, where big betrayal in my world, and feel taking advantage. And a lot of my community got stripped. A lot of my stuff got stripped out of me, and I had to rebuild myself. So it took me a little bit to just grieve, and eventually, I wrote in my mirror in my bathroom, "Mama didn't raise no bitch," and I read that every day, and I wrote like all my affirmation over it, like my mirror in my bathroom. Like anybody who, for those 4 or 5 months, anybody who walked in my bathroom was like, "What the hell is going on? This guy is nuts."
I did the same thing.
Like my entire, I have a picture of it. Like it's like my bathroom was like, it's massive mirror, it's big, and it's all, it was everywhere, like big, and I couldn't even look at myself. It's just like you couldn't miss it. But eventually I was like, I'm hurt, but I'm not destroyed. Like I'm hurt, but I'm not damaged. I'm hurt, but I'm not damaged. And it took me a little bit to rebuild and to figure out what I really wanted to do. What I really wanted to do for myself, and to who cares about anybody else? Like, and to just being like, okay, like I just fell down, but I'm back up now. But it took me a while. It took me a while to get back up, but eventually I was like, okay, like I'm back up and I can do anything that I want. What is really what I want to do? What do I enjoy to do? What is my calling? What fill up my cup? What do I enjoy doing? And I think this is this artistic side, and that answer to so many things that through my life I was questioning. I always like piano, I always like a lot of my artistic side, and it's just like well, like yeah, like it makes sense. I always love to draw. It's just, so I was like, okay, like, and eventually it took like a little bit, and I started to do acting school, and not to throw smoke, but my teacher at Maggie Flanagan's studio, I'm name dropping, said, I took the intensive summer class, 6-week intensive. And he said, at the end of the 6 week, you'll find out if you're at the right place, if this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the 6 weeks, I knew that this is exactly where I needed to be and what I needed to do. And there was no other place where I would want to be. So that was the biggest shift, and now there is no doubt, and it's just clarity.
Yeah, it's a good place to be.
It's good. It's a good place to be, and I've been for years in the transition of what am I doing, what am I not doing, what's my life? Do I want to train? Do I want to teach? Do I want to train professional? And it's like, and it's almost when you do a lot of things, and you do a lot of little things, you end up doing a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
So now I only teach boxing, kickboxing, because I love it, because it's something that I love to share.
Fills your cup.
it fills my cup to doing it at a small dose with people who really want it and who enjoy it. But the artistic life and the acting is what fill my cup. I feel like I've learned so much. I grow so much. I can't wait to keep going in this direction. I can't wait to just like now, like I'm in the point where like I'm toward the end of the second year. I dropped my representation through the first year. I was like, I don't even need to act. I just want to learn for now.
Yeah.
And now I'm at a place I'm like, you know what? I'm in a good place to get back in it because now I know what I'm doing. Or at least I know more and I know what I wasn't doing. There's always more to be learned. So you do. I'm confident that I learned a lot, but I'm not too cocky that there is nothing for me to learn.
Yeah. There's always something to learn.
There's always something to learn, but I'm like, I'm excited.
Yeah. So wrapping up, do you have a book, a podcast, an experience that fundamentally shifted you as a human that if you could recommend to somebody as the only life-changing self-development thing they could do in their life, what would it be?
Oh my God. I tried to think about it because you sent me that question and I was like, I guess it'll be my book when I write it. But that's a project of another life. But as of now, I think for everybody it's going to be different. When I was a kid, the Royal game like really like made me something, but did something to me. But somebody's going to read it and maybe not shift with it. I think just be curious. Be curious. Listen different thing. Read. I used to hate reading. Just get the audiobook. Just like, and now with podcasts, it's like there's so many like cool podcasts. There's almost like too many, but like I don't know. I've always been somebody who's just curious about learning. So I guess a cool book that might be gonna help somebody is The Body Keep the Score.
Yeah.
There we go. That's a good one too. I think if you had to read one that's gonna help you, The Body Keep the Score is just to help you to understand yourself a little more, how your body, your mind, your emotion like are processed, and hopefully that help you to give you some keys that unlock you in an open like just and the movie that's about to come out that's called Keep It Real.
Keep it real.
Keep It Real.
Okay.
You'll hear about it. It's about to come out.
Are you in it?
I am in it. It's my friend Kate from Dreambold who actually like interviewed all those big energy healer, including like all the biggest energy healer in the planet, and it's a lot of. It has to do a lot with the law of attraction, the belief, the seeing where you want to be, and just making things happening, and how you the only healer of yourself, and how we all like have superpowers, and that will unlock some secret for you.
Nice. I'm making a note. I keep hearing The Body Keeps Score, and I like know the book, but I've never read it, and it keeps coming back. So it's time to.
I would have brought it for you.
It's time to read it next time.
That's a good friend always bring you a good. Yeah, actually, that's a good thing. If you can do something, get a book, and if it's a cool book, give it to a good friend, and if it's a good friend, he'll read it. Because even if you don't like, even if he doesn't like it, if they want to understand you, they need to understand what resonates with you. A good friend will read the book. Because they won't want to know what rings with you. Those people, you keep them close to you. The one who don't read the book, they don't care about you.
So wrapping up, is there anything you're excited about at the moment that you want to let the listeners in on?
Yeah, I'm excited about Martin Scorsese's new movie that is going to hire me. So I'm putting that in the universe. Martin, if you watch me, because I know you will, excited to work with you.
Nice. And where can people find you if they're interested?
They can find me on social media, Thomas the Boxer, and my the website is thomastheboxer.com and thomastheboxer@gmail.com. If anybody is interested and just curious, I want to talk and want to shoot me a question, and if you give me a good positive feedback, just like ask question about anything. I'm pretty cool. I'll answer you. And if I can help you in any ways, or if that pushed you in any direction or like intrigued you and you want to like give me some feedback, I'll be more than happy.
Great. And my last question to wrap this up is, what do you think the meaning of life is?
I don't know. I think it evolved to me. I think for a long time I was looking for, I've been trying to look for what is happiness, how to get happiness. And eventually it evolved, and I've been running after it and around it, when I think the happiness I've been just right under my nose for so long. And I don't know, I'm lucky to say that I got a great family, and that for me the meaning of life is being able to take from the eldest and to give to the next generation, and do something that's just be a good neighbor, fill your cup with what fill your cup, and keep it real.
Thomas, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Adam.
Till next time.
But I can't let you go before you tell me what you think the meaning of life is.
I think it is, there's a few things. Leaving the world a little bit better than how you found it every single chance you can. And then just, so are you religious?
I am.
Okay. So I'm like a dabble, a dabble, but in, in the Bible, it said that God created us under his likeness, right? So the idea of a meaningful life is to get as close to God as possible, right? So how do you do that? Well, the act of creation is something that we are very natural at as humans. And because it feels, when we're in the act of creating something beautiful, something that is important to us across whatever it is, we can get into flow. We can feel driven. We have everything just works around you. You have a goal that is unrelenting. It's like the universe will go, all right, okay, I hear you. Let's see what you got. And basically in my mind, it's because creation by humans is an act of God. We are getting as close to being like God when we are creating. So I would say that the meaning of life is to create whatever comes to you. You want to create a family, create. You want to create a business, create. You want to create a network, create. But in creation, you find fulfillment, and in fulfillment, you find the meaning of everything you do. So that's my meaning of life answer.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay. And if anyone's made it this far, thank you. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give this podcast a rating. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Love to hear from you. And
if you haven't subscribed, he just said it. Subscribe, guys. Support and subscribe. That's important. Like, support, subscribe, comment.
All right. Bye-bye.